for those of you that might be in the room that don't know me, my name's Andrew, and I just want to say thanks so much for joining us in our middle school breakout about talking to your kids about sexual integrity. I know that's not an easy thing. I've worked with teens and preteens my entire adult life, and I've seen youth culture kind of turn and twist and expand and change over the time that I've worked with teens. And I've also seen a lot of change when it comes to sex and relationships. So my goal for you in this time together is to be able to interpret our changing world and the changes going on in your middle school student, and to be a clear, caring voice to help them build respect and confidence in themselves, where they're at and where they're going. Now I want you to be equipped with a really solid strategy and some key tools to have some hard but good conversations. And I know that that is not easy, but I believe firmly that you are the person that God has in your child's life to have these conversations, because you are their best in this moment of time and in this moment of history. And God has trusted you to be the right person at the right place at the right time. And he's going to help you give them wisdom. And we're going to try to do this together. But trust me, you have got this. And over the course of our time together here, in this short time together, I'm going to remind you of this, because no one loves your child more than you do. And I know that it might not feel like that at times. Like sometimes they're not forgiving to you, but no one knows your child more than you do, despite how they're treating you at that time. So regardless of what your background is, know that your heart is to always help your child wisely navigate this season and terrain. And we're going to do this together. And it's not about those kids or bad kids, but it is about our kids, because the reality is we've all have a natural curiosity and interest in sexual stuff. That's just how God made us. And our kids are going to be exposed to these things. And it's not a question of if, it's when and how and what they're going to do when they are exposed. And we're going to be in this together to help them do this and be their best. So you wouldn't be here in this place if you weren't serious about it, I know. So just a little background. I don't remember having specific conversations with my parents about sex. It was something that I know that we did talk about at times. I had two older sisters, so I probably knew a lot more than I should have at a younger age. And my understanding of biology was normal, probably a little above normal for kids my age. But my parents didn't talk about boundaries that I can really remember. I just remember rules and expectations that they made for me. They were definitely about guarding me. And they did guide me, but they weren't as intentional as I desired to be with my kids. And that's they did the best that they could, and they did a great job. But here's the reality of it. Talking to your middle school student about sex isn't just a one and done conversation. It is far more about them than it is about you. And if you can remember those couple of things, and we can keep making it better than maybe even our parents did for us, the better it's going to be. And something similar to my story may have happened to you. Maybe you didn't have any kinds of talks at all with your parents, and it was the schools that helped you, or maybe your friends. But I want to help set you up. See, you're going to need to be the expert, and it's going to be a little awkward, and don't dwell on that awkwardness, but prepare yourself. Say things out loud, maybe to your spouse, maybe to yourself in the car. Say things out loud that might be a little uncomfortable for you to say out loud. And the more that you do this, the more comfortable it's going to become to say to your student. And think about the kinds of questions that you can ask your student. Maybe they're a really good communicator. Maybe your kids talk with you and you're very open and you have a good relationship. So you can talk about lots of things. But maybe you have a student that's maybe a little more closed communicator. So think about very specific things that are in their world that was Think about specific things that maybe you saw on a post or maybe on TV or in the news that might be an ongoing conversation as they come along. Look for those kinds of opportunities. And you want your student to keep coming to you about these things that come up. So have a really good poker face at times, because they may say something outlandish or really odd or strange. And you don't want to humiliate them or keep them from coming to you, because you know what? If they're not coming to you by these with these kinds of questions, then who else are they going to come to for help, wisdom, or advice? And when you talk about these things, pick a place that's safe and private and helpful. I find it's really easy to go on walks with my daughters away from people. Outside is a good place. Or a hot tip for a lot of those dads, a good another area that's clutch, especially with boys, is on a car ride when it's just the windshield in front of you and you and it keeps your eyes forward. So when I was a preteen and a teen, I was given very little of these kinds of talks, and I was just told that I was a good kid. I mean, like, my parents trusted me a lot. I think their expectation was that I would just make good choices. Well, I tried to be a good kid, but you know what? I was also an idiot. And I was being flooded with testosterone and hormones, which of course confused me even more and made things even more awkward. And I needed wisdom. And one of the wisest men ever to walk the earth was a man named Solomon. And he wrote a collection of wise sayings collected in the book of Proverbs that we find in the Bible. And he says, to become wise, we need to walk with the wise. Now, wisdom isn't applying the right information at the right time, and your student so needs that right now. They need it from you. Wisdom is being clear about boundaries and having a good plan for the questions and the challenges that come up. So you're going to have to model that wisdom. And here's your wise strategy. I want to encourage you to be, number one, a kind question asker. Number two, a respectful conversationalist. And number three, a clear, consistent boundary setter. See, we need to be a great, sincere, kind question asker. Be a calm, direct, respectful conversationalist about anything, and be a clear boundary setter with consistent reasons and strategies for the boundaries and the consequences for those boundaries. See, a lot of this is mental. It's thinking in terms of these things as part of an ongoing conversation. It's thinking in terms of layers that continue to get harder, and that's okay. It's thinking in terms of a preparation plan, because they will be exposed to certain things. It's just going to happen. So what should they do? How should they respond? And how should they feel? And that's on us. See, we were our own digital pioneers, but our kids, they're digital natives. They know nothing different. They know a permanent way of seeing life is the way that they've experienced it so far. So the way that we all now see sex and relationships and intimacy, it has to include a fully digital or technological filter on it, because it's fully integrated into our kids' lives. We might go back and forth between screen and physical world, but they are going at both all the time at the same exact time. So using that kind of logic, we need to take a step back, looking back and forth and knowing that we need to look forward, looking at both, and our definitions of some of these words and ideas need to expand and evolve to include this idea of a more open way of seeing some of these things. Words like relationships and sex and friendships and intimacy and boundaries, respect, dignity, honor. See, all of these words have to fully exist both digitally and physically, because that's the world that our students are living in. And both are going on at the same time, and we need to set the tone in helping them grow. And the earlier that we can start that, the better. We started having conversations with our girls. And in fact, I'm going to be dad to my own middle schooler next year, which is pretty scary. We started having conversations with our girls as a result of the lessons that they were having on Sunday mornings. And I remember honor was something that just kept coming up over and over again. And it started conversations in our house about what honor looked like. And it became part of our family's language. See, these are the kinds of words that have kind of been a big deal for our family. And they became the beginning of this conversation about things like honor and dignity and respect. Our words have just started to stick with us in our family. And over the course of time, they'll continue. They'll become more comfortable as you continue to talk about them. Questions like, is this how a man of honor would act? You know, we keep defining what that word honor looks like. What does it mean to carry yourself with dignity through a screen or maybe even in person? What does it mean to honor someone behind a screen or in person? What does it mean to respect yourself, others, God, parents? What if you're interested in that person romantically? What if they're interested romantically in you, but you're not in them? What if you want to be friends with them? What if you wish they didn't think of you as their friend? Well, anyway, we have to think in terms of respect, dignity, and honor. And these words have guided our family and helped expand the way that we ask questions. Things about music, questions that we ask about like posts and life. Our kids are watching the boundaries that we live by too. And so we want to speak about these things so that we can have deep conversations about how they affect our minds and our hearts. In our home, we have the open expectation that anyone can look at anyone else's devices. And for us, it's accountability. It's even accountability for me. And in our home, our kids turn in their devices in our kitchen. We have a little charging station in the corner that they plug it into, and they can't leave that spot. Our devices aren't allowed upstairs in their bedrooms. They have to be in the main living floor. And if you're part of our technology parent queue, we've set them up so their devices totally shut off at 8 o'clock where they can't even use them. Apps have to be approved so that there's accountability. Maybe some boundaries that you want to set up is maybe dating won't be allowed in your home until they're 16. Maybe if one of your kids, when that time comes and they're able to date, if your kid's interested in dating someone, they want to kind of start a relationship with someone, maybe the expectation is that you have to meet them before they can go on a date. A common mistake right now is actually kind of opening up all of the doors and letting our middle school students do anything and everything that they want. But I find that layers and steps with dating and relationships and technology is a process that helps them show how to walk with honor and dignity and respect as they go. For themselves, God, family, and life, this is an ongoing conversation. And these boundaries can change over time. But the words and boundaries become the guardrails. And accountability is what lets us know that we're going in the right direction. So you might think that this is a little harsh, maybe it's a little extreme, some of these rules, but I'm just telling you what's worked for our family and for some families that we've learned from. So here's the thing. Our kids are being completely flooded with more sexual images than we've ever seen in the world before. Every second, 28,258 people view pornography online. The largest group that consumes pornography are children from the ages 12 to 17. That's insane. 11 is the average age of the first contact with pornography. 9 out of 10 boys and 6 out of 10 girls are exposed to porn between the ages of 8 and 18. And about 20% of students ages 13 to 16 have been involved in some type of sexting, which is just receiving or sending nude or partially nude images through some kind of mobile or Wi-Fi device. And it's considered the sixth biggest health issue in our country right now. See, these kids think that it's a natural progression of flirting and interest. And unless we're able to help them have a healthy view of sexuality and what this progression looks like, they're going to keep thinking that way. And man, these are moments why I feel like it's important for us to check phones and to stay connected and to not have distance between us and our kids, because our students feel pressure. They feel pressure to be sexy. They feel pressure to seek out sexy, and they feel pressure to show sexy, boys and girls alike. And we need to walk with them through this stuff. And I know some of you are sixth grade parents and you're like, my kids are not in this place yet, but I'm telling you, it's coming. Now, unless we correct this, unless we help them see more, they're going to see this as a natural way to live, and it is not. This is something associated with growing up to them, and they feel like it's the next step in things, and it's not. Now, it's exciting and it's okay to be curious, and they're naturally drawn to it. But now we need help to give them the boundaries and expectations of what's accurate. And if sex isn't already a big enough issue, now we have identity attached to those things. There have now been relationships that become sexualized. If someone has a close relationship with another student of the opposite sex, then it becomes there's something sexual with it, assumed. There's a desire to be approved by a group of people or a peer group of friends or a significant other, where now it's become sexualized, and I see that door open and I don't see it shutting anytime soon. So that means we need to now walk with our students and help them answer these questions, which again is being that kind question asker, that respectful conversationalist, and having those clear, consistent boundaries. See, there's four things that I want us to be looking at together with this. One is create a path of wisdom. Two is designed to find key words. And the third is to keep walking this path together using words as boundaries. And then lastly, four is that we would use every opportunity that we have to remind our kids of who they are. So first, create a path of wisdom. In the book of Luke, it says that Jesus grew in wisdom. In the Old Testament, we learn about a tribe of the Jewish people, the tribe of Issachar, that said that they were respected because they studied the times and they walked in wisdom. They faced the challenges and questions that arose. See, wisdom is a mentality. It's a mindset. And it's that I'm going to do the best thing at the best time. It's that I'm going to apply the key ideas at the right time. And it's not just with sex. It's with life. Wisdom is the key. It's making the best and right choice in the midst of many options. It's a principle that they're going to have when they're taking a math test or when they're turning down drugs from a peer at school, or where they're making relationship choices or college decisions. It's all connected. See, wisdom should be centered in all of this, and it includes your family values as a family of faith. You know, my family cares deeply about the values of God. And so that's how we align ourselves. We submit ourselves to his definitions of what's right and what's good and what's wise, not what the world's definition is. His way becomes our way for us to the best of our abilities, but we're not perfect. We're not, but we are trying to figure that out. Your family's going to have to do that too. What is the key to doing the right thing and the wise thing in your family? Because especially now in middle school, asking these questions is important. What do you think about this? What do you think about the wise choice? What do you think? How do you think that that's going to work out if you make that choice? Help them understand this wise process as they make decisions, because that's going to help you understand them more. Where do you think this is going to go? Well, why would you say that? I mean, ask those types of questions. These are just good questions to ask because you want to come back down to wisdom. Everything needs to come back down to that. And that's on purpose and not on accident. You want to help them walk a path of wisdom so that they'll be wise in their relationships and in their sexual integrity. Is this a wise choice? Is this what I want to be known for? I don't know. Let's shift for a minute. A word that we've seen and used in church circles for a really long time is this word purity, which it's a beautiful word. Don't get me wrong, but it kind of implies perfect, and we don't necessarily want our kids to be perfect. What we want is our kids to have integrity. We want them to have character. The words I like to use are honor and dignity and respect. Number 2 is define key words. See, set the tone early with these. Set the tone early with these words to know what's important to you. Again, you've heard me say it before, but the words in our family were honor, dignity, and respect. They may sound a little old-fashioned to you, but to me, those are the kinds of words that I like, that I want to describe my kids. I want them to describe my kids behind their back or about themselves and others. And we revisit those words at different times in conversations with boundaries. See, I use dignity with ladies. I use honor with dudes. And that doesn't make me right. It's just kind of what I prefer to use. You set your own words. See, dignity seems to imply that there are certain things that a lady doesn't dignify with a response. They don't allow that into their lives. They don't allow themselves to entertain those things. It's outside of who they are or what they do. And for men, I like to use the word honor. It's kind of associated with like the Marines and an honor code and a line that I don't cross. See, respect is a great word for everybody because it's used to apply to anyone and everyone, including family, God, others. And so with making these kinds of choices, these are the words that pop up. Does this step on her dignity? Does this step on his honor? Does this compromise your dignity? Those are questions that you can ask when decisions are being made. Does this compromise your honor? Does this show respect for yourself, respect for God, respect for others, respect for your parents, respect for their parents? See, these are the kinds of words that when you can use them, they can help have sexually related conversations because they give us the words that we need to answer the questions that are most important to us. Because here's the thing, as we start to learn more about these things and help our students and learn more about these, we need to have these kinds of words to help them deal with that at their age. You're the one who will help them define those words as they go. So even as new terms come up, you're going to have to be aware of learning those too. Number 3 was keep walking the path together using your keywords as boundaries. Look for opportunities to talk about things of a sexual nature. Trust me, this might seem a little awkward, but there's always something in the news or on a magazine cover, things that are coming up at school, from a post that they see or a comment on a screen. And be involved and become the expert, even if you don't know that you know, even if you don't know the answer. Find promise, or just promise them that you'll find one out and be humble about it. And by the way, don't be awkward about it. Don't try to be cool using like the newer lingo terms and things of that nature. Be straightforward, be succinct. That's going to help you, especially with Gen Z kids. And you're going to want to point out things that maybe they have been recent in their world. See, if you're just kind of trying to show what you're worried about, and you make it about you, kids can smell a motive a mile away most of the time, and it can't ever be about your fears for them or your past decisions or your frustrations or your insecurities. Your motive has to be to help your student first and foremost, always. This is going to be clear because your students are going to know that you are for them, that you're going and that you're going to want to look at these things. Now, if they have a public social media account, if they have access for other people in their lives, you're going to want to be aware of those things and have conversations about what kind of information or images they're allowing to happen on those. And we want to have those conversations. How are we letting people have access to us? Have those kinds of conversations with them. I've heard parents that I respect have open policies in their homes that they can come, that their kids can come and ask them about anything, literally anything at any time, and with no strings attached. So as we have conversations about social media options that come, just come forward, or about words that you hear at school, or have the conversations that if we don't know, we can find the answers out together, and keep that communication line open to where you can learn about those things as part of that ongoing conversation and that process. It's going to help them, and it's going to help you. And when you come back to those key words, it recenters you. It realigns boundaries. And when those boundaries are crossed, it allows you to learn together. Sometimes there needs to be a negative consequence and privilege is lost. Sometimes it's a learning experience because you just didn't know and neither did they. But for both of you, you have to readjust those boundaries as you learn. New things, and that way that you're able to respect and love other people, and of course in your family. So number 4 is use this as an opportunity to remind your middle school student of who they are. Sex doesn't tell them who they are, but it will if we don't tell them who they are. Sex doesn't define them. Other people are going to try and tell them who they are, and they will if we don't. Who you're attracted to and how you respond to people doesn't define your identity, but what you do with your what do you do with your feelings? You can sure make an impression on someone, and it can make or break a destination. That we honor, what we dignify, the responses that come out of those will become our reputation. They become how people see us, but we need to define, what does it mean to be a member of the Tolkien family? What does it mean to be a member of the Gonzalez family, the Blaine family, the Smith family, whatever your last name is? I've seen families have issues with their daughters. They see their TikTok account and they see that she was posting pictures of herself wearing kind of skimpy clothes and kind of doing some provocative, suggestive dances that she'd seen modeled on TikTok. And when the mom and dad confronted her on it, she said, "Look, I like the attention. It makes me feel good about myself. It makes me feel pretty. I get all these likes and when I post that kind of stuff, but I don't get those kind of likes when I do other stuff." She was finding her value in it, and they had to remind her that's not who she is. She's not the number of likes that she has on an image or a video. She's not what she looks. She's not what she looks like or what she has on her body. She's way more than that. She's far more valuable than that. And they had to remind her of who she was. And you know what? Our kids are searching to find out who they are. That's all about the middle school age. That's the phase that they're in. And they'll find out through media. They'll find out through social media. They'll find out through their peers if we don't help reiterate who they really are. Our middle school students might need to hear this more than any other people group on the planet, and we're the ones to do that. What the world is trying to tell them right here and right now isn't always what's right, and we know they matter, that they have value, and none of that has anything to do with anything sexual or sexy or sex related. It has to do with just them. So here's the thing. We live in a sexualized culture where we have more access points to our students than we've ever had before. And God's handpicked you to be your child's guide through this season and in this terrain. And I'm telling you that it will be hard at times, but you have what it takes and you're gonna do great. Remember, this is an ongoing conversation. Remember to stay connected in person and digitally with your students, where they're at, what's going on, who's involved in their life. It's your charge to interpret this changing world around them and the changes happening in them. And it's you that's going to be that caring, consistent voice that's going to help them build respect for themselves and others and confidence in who they are and how they face the world. I want you to be equipped with a solid strategy and some key tools that, though this might be hard and ongoing in conversation, have this mindset to keep this conversation going, that it keeps expanding. Be a kind question asker, be a respectful conversationalist, and have clear, consistent boundaries that you set as you go. Remember to have a clear path of wisdom to define key words that are important in your life, like honor, dignity, and respect. Keep walking this path together as you use these words as your boundaries, and to use sex as one more opportunity to remind your kids of who they are. You've got this because you're the expert of your child. You love them more than anyone else does. And may you walk in confidence, in courage, in kindness, in clarity, leaning on the wisdom of God and your community, so that your child is reminded of who they are, why they matter, and how to navigate these challenging times. In Jesus' name, amen.